Alright guys, how's it going? I am the Crown Clown and today we are doing the 1K special. I know it's been long overdue, so this is actually the 1.3K, subscriber special. And to do this for today, to celebrate and give back to you guys, I put up a poll and, asked you guys to comment in the comments and on the Discord, and I even had some direct messages with their votes. So here's how this is going to happen. Cobra won, but Sabretooth was so close to it, I decided to do both. So for today, this whole day, that all the content I'll put out today is 2 videos, which I don't do that often, but today is the exception. It'll have both What If Deku was Cobra, which is this video right here, and the second video of the day, which will be up a bit later, will be What If Deku was Sabretooth. So, I hope you guys will enjoy this, and thank you guys so much for 1K subs. It's amazing, that's a lot of time you guys won't get back, and I see that you guys just enjoy all of these, what ifs that I do, and I see all your comments. I do my best to reply to them if I can, and I just appreciate you guys so much for sticking with me all the way through this. So, last time I'll say this, but thank you guys so much for 1,000 subs. Anyways, let's get into this with What If Deku was Cobra. So, where we're going to pick up is actually a little bit right before Deku was born. So, Deku, he's still going to have his canon parents, and he's still going to be quirkless. So, what actually happens, though, is something that's a bit of a twist. You see, when Deku's born, he's born a bit, premature. So his parents are actually, very worried about him growing up. And, Deku, he still wants to be a hero. He still looks up at All Might with these great ideals growing up. But once he hits the age of 4, he's actually, noticing a lot more than Deku normally does. He starts getting his analytical skills super early, where he analyzes everything and writes it all down. He starts doing that a lot earlier. And his teachers, in daycare and kindergarten, they're pretty much just like, wow, that's actually really studious of him at such a young age. And so he's actually on a high note early on in life, despite, his parents' overprotective nature. His father is actually home and in his life a lot more. So, Deku, he's pretty much, loving life until it's time to get his quirk looked at. And the doctor says he's quirkless. And both his parents are there and they're just shocked. And the doctor asks, to tell them what their quirks are, and she says she can, you know, move small objects, and Deku's father said that he has a fire, based quirk, and, the doctor says, see, he has this, extra bone right here, which is, telling of a quirkless person that they haven't evolved past that point. And if he did have a quirk, he would have had, either one of your guys' quirks or a mixture of the two. But he has nothing. There's nothing in him. And, they're depressed and about to, get up. And the doctor says, hold on a minute here. There's a procedure the government's putting in. And if you guys really want to try to give your child a quirk to make him, stronger and, accepted into the society, I would actually recommend you guys speak to this agent. And they say, okay. So they go and meet the agent, and I'm gonna say the dude's name is, you know, Special Agent Arasaka. And he says, well, this kid's quirkless, right? They show him the medical reports, and he says, okay, so there's this special program. Way back in the day, like thousands of years past, there were these people called mages, wizards, if you would. They had guilds. It was a grand event. But once the magic in the air dissipated, mages could no longer continue with their craft. But we've uncovered a special relic from a forgotten past with instructions that are roughly translated. It's all still experimental, but if we have your son, we could give him power. But the thing is, we need quirkless kids, and they have to be kids. No teenagers or adults, because frankly, their bodies wouldn't be able to adjust to it. And if they have a quirk, it would cause a bad reaction. So, here's what I'm proposing to you guys. Sign over your rights to Deku, to your son here. If you sign away your rights and allow us to take him, I promise we can give him power. And after that, we would return him to you, of course. And they ask, is that all? Do we get nothing out of this deal? And he says, oh no, we would pay you handsomely for your son. And Deku's dad asks, how handsomely? And Inko, she's just like, what? And he's like, woman, let's hear the whole offer. And Inko tells them there's no amount of money that could get me to sign away my rights to my child. And the dude says, $900 billion for your child. And Deku's dad, he's just like, I'll sign my rights away right now. And Inko, she's just looking at Deku, and Deku's dad says, look at him. He's pathetic. He's weak. What type of life could he have? He'd be bullied constantly. This is best for him and us. Think about that. And, Inko reluctantly agrees. They sign the paperwork, for just giving Deku up. They have no rights to their child anymore. And Deku can't believe that, because even though he's young, he still knows what it means to, them giving up their rights. He's not an idiot. Not in the slightest. So, after they give up their rights to Deku, Agent Arasaka, writes them the check. And Deku's parents become billionaires right there on the spot. And Deku is taken and put in a back seat of a car, bag over his face, as he's driven out to his new home. And it's a research facility. Deku is, stripped, he's showered, he's, given fresh clothes that are just pure white. He's, shoved in a room that has nothing but a little bed and pillows and a toilet, and that's pretty much it. And so Deku's next 5 years of his life is just them taking him, putting him on an examination table, looking at his cells, all that. And they do implant the Dragon Slayer Lacrima into Deku. And they let him rest for a few weeks, letting the surgery heal up. And, after that, it's like strict training on Deku, getting him to unleash his powers. And they don't know what type of Dragon Slayer Lacrima they put into him. All they know is they put the relic inside of Deku, so it needs to start, activating. And Deku, he starts feeling really weird. Like he feels this burning inside of him, and he's just like, it hurts so much. And the doctors, they're just like, this is, all within acceptable range. He just needs to toughen up a bit. So Agent Arasaka basically punches Deku right in the stomach, grabs him by his shirt, lifts him up, and says, I don't care if you're feeling a little uncomfortable. You were paid for. You're our property. You're going to do what you're told, or you will be thrown out like trash after we extract that relic from you, of course. So Deku has to, for the next, you know, 5 years. Keep in mind, Deku, he's still only 5 years old, and he's going through intense training that not even a grown man would be able to handle. And, Deku, he can't manifest it, so they start beating him. They start, just beating the hell out of Deku. And he's, bruised and bloodied and put back in his room. And so Deku, he's just like had enough. His mind's broken. And he's just thinking to himself, this is no different than a slave. And the name of the facility he's in is called Heaven's, facility. And that's a little reference for fairy tale fans right there. And so he's in there, and his best friend, one of the doctors, allowed him to have a little animal in his cell, and it's a snake. It's a little purple snake. And that's Deku's only friend. The snake, he sees Deku, and it slithers over there, and just, Deku lets his arm down, the snake crawls up his arm, and Deku just has that only friend, and it's not even an actual person. Deku starts to cry, and, the snake, it comforts Deku. So Deku, he has a close bond to the snake. And, pretty much Agent Arasaka sees that. And he thinks that could be a suitable way because all the way through this, 4 years have passed now. It's the 5th year. And there's been no notable differences with Deku. The relic hasn't activated. He's not showing any promising signs. And so, he's going to take in drastic measures. So he takes Deku out of his room, dragging him with the snake. He tells the doctors, modify that snake and, kill it if you have to. And Deku hears that. He's like, no. And he straps Deku onto a table, rips his shirt open, and he's like, bring in the iron. And Deku's like, what do you mean? And there's this branding iron in the shape of a dragon. And he heats it up and he slams it right onto Deku's chest and brands him with the mark of a dragon. And Deku's looking at the snake, it's hissing at people, and they inject it with something, and the snake, it's just hurting, it's crying out in pain. Deku says, stop it. And Arasaka tells him, what are you going to do about it? You're nothing but a slave here. And Deku says, I'm not your property anymore. And that's when it activates. And Deku, without even thinking, says, Poison Dragon, roar! As he does that, and poison shoots out of his mouth. And they're just like, what is this? And they all start coughing, and they start spitting out blood, and they're just hitting the ground. And Deku's on a rampage. His arms turn into like these dragonish arms because he's just going berserk at this point. He rips it off, and he goes over there and he punches the doctors out, and he notices when he's in this form, every action he takes, poison is seeping out. And Deku just grabs them and injects them with poison, killing them. And then he takes his snake, and the snake's unaffected by his poison. And Deku notices that. And the snake, it's happy to be back with Deku. Deku's running through the facility, and, he's, getting some clothes and packing up some food in a bag, and he, busts a hole through the wall and runs off. And, you know, everyone at the facility is poisoned, and none of them have an antidote because they don't know what type of poison it is. And Deku, he can't control this quirk of his that he thinks it's a quirk, but it's not. And when he calms down, it deactivates, and Deku passes out right there. His snake, it curls up to protect Deku from anything because they're out there in the woods. Like, this is a facility that's far removed from any type of civilization. So Deku, he wakes up the next morning and he's running all the way through out there, and he gets back to civilization, but he's on the streets. He doesn't know where his parents are, and he actually hates them. He hates Inko. He hates his dad for selling him off like some property. To him, there's no excuse why they, should have just sold him off. Like he was replaceable and that he didn't matter. Like he was subhuman, not even worth anything. And so Deku, he's next year he's just stealing food to survive. And, he's in a back alley fight one day, and, people are walking by, and a particular man, he walks by and he sees Deku unleashing his power, and he's captivated by it. He thinks it's an incredible power to have. It's raw, rough around the edges, but given the right treatment and care, it could become something monumentally amazing. And he walks in there, he slams those thugs' heads into the pavement, and he says, "Whoa there, kid. No need to be so on edge." And Deku's looking at him, and it's a tall, slender man with a long nose and, orange hair. And Deku asks, "Who are you? What do you want?" And the man says, "Hold on. I'm here as a friend. You look like you've been through a lot." And, the snake, it hisses at him. And he's like, "Oh, that's a cute little fella you got there, too." And Deku's like, "It's my only friend. They were trying to kill it. I had to protect it." And he notices Deku's hardly got anything on his bones. He's just skin and bones at this point. And he says, "Kid, how long have you been like this?" Deku says, "About a year." And the man says, "That simply won't do. With power like yours, you deserve to be high in life. You know, Powers shouldn't be, pushed down and contained or told what you can and can't do with them." "Wait, where's your parents, kid?" And Deku says he has no parents anymore. They sold him off to be experimented on. And this actually angers the man, and he's like, "That's unforgivable. No one should be sold off." And he says, "How about you come live with me? Why don't you be my son?" And Deku's like, "I don't even know what to call you." And he says, "Call me Redestro." And he says, "Okay, well, are you just going to use me, experiment on me, beat me, break me down?" He says, "No, no, no, no. If you agree to come with me, I'll formally adopt you. You'll be my son. I'll be your father. And I'll actually care for you. I won't sell you out to no one. And heck, I'll even train you. I'll, give you access to facilities that you've never even dreamed of." And he looks at his hair and he's like, "I like that red hair of yours anyway." And, Deku's hair color, it's changed to, that red because of the activation of the Poison Dragon Slayer magic. His hair originally was green, but the process changed his hair to red. And, the Deku that's on the thumbnail, yeah, that's how he's going to look in this What If, just to give you guys a heads up. So, Deku agrees. He agrees to go with Redestro. And, keep in mind, Deku, he was like sold right outside of, kindergarten. So they did educate him, and he is caught up to pretty much almost middle school level. So, yeah. And he does know Bakugo, but not all that well. He honestly forgot about Bakugo, and Bakugo's forgotten about him. So Deku agrees to Redestro's offer, and he walks with Redestro, Snake, and, I'm gonna let you guys name Deku Snake. Comment down below what you want his snake name to be. And keep in mind, the snake is a guy. So comment down below, what name do you want Deku Snake to have? And so he gets with Redestro. Redestro, first thing when he gets home, he feeds Deku. He says, eat as much as you like. And, he calls up the state and he says, hey, yeah, I found a kid here. He has no family, nowhere to go. I want to adopt him. And, they're just like, okay, well, we'd have to come make sure you're suitable and have you fill out the paperwork, and there's a fee. And Reed Esther tells them, that's all fine. Money is no issue. I want this kid to be my son no matter what. I found him on the streets. He's been starved and he's currently eating. I'll be bathing him and letting him sleep here tonight. I expect to see you guys bright and early in the morning, and don't keep me waiting. I am a very busy man. And they're just like, of course. So, Deku, he finishes eating, and Redestro notices he's eaten a lot. The kid had a huge appetite. And he even, tells Deku, we can get some food for your snake, too. And Deku's, would you please? I've been feeding him what I could. And, he says, of course. So he gives, Deku Snake its own little tank, which it sleeps in happily. He feeds it mice, and, it's eating a lot of mice. And so that happens, Deku, he takes his shower. He gets on some fresh clothes, which, very nice clothes, because Redestro is a very rich man. And, he goes to sleep on a nice soft bed instead of just on the concrete. He sleeps good for the first time in 5 years. He actually has a good night of sleep. So, Deku, he wakes up and, Redestro tells him to, brush your teeth, come to dinner, breakfast. And, Deku, he goes in there, he brushes his teeth, he comes to breakfast, and his snake is still sleeping. So he's not about to wake it up. He knows how much the snake hates that. And so he eats, rice, egg, omelet. So he's eating that and he's actually enjoying it. And Redestro is just smiling when he looks at Deku, and he notices that glare in his eyes. It's not going away. And, he asks what all is his powers. And Deku says, well, I can tell what people are going to do before they even do it. He says, oh, how's that? He's like, I can hear their thoughts. And he's like, wait, you can hear people's thoughts? He's like, yeah, that's how I knew you weren't lying to me when you said that you'd adopt me and take care of me. And Redestro is just like, this kid's amazing. He says, I'm not really that amazing. After all, I am quirkless, but this power I've been given. And Redestro like, wait, you don't have a quirk? He's like, this is something way more powerful than a quirk. Redestro's ears lighten up and his eyes just go wild hearing this. He's smiling from cheek to cheek and he's like, I just hit the jackpot. And, he's like, okay, kid, tell me, what is it? he says, this is an ancient relic that's been put inside of me. And apparently, they could take it out and I'd lose my power. And Redestro says, we'll have a doctor be the judge of that. I'm pretty sure they just told you that to keep you scared. Tell me, what type of power is it? Deku says, apparently it's something called Dragon Slayer magic. And I have the poison type. And he says, so that makes you a poison dragon slayer. And he says, so, tell me, what's your name? He says, Izuku Midoriya. But I'd like to have a new name if at all possible. And he says, sure, tell me, what name would you want to be given once I adopt you? And Deku, he pauses to think about this. And Deku tells him, I want my first name to be Cobra. And he says, oh, Cobra, why is that? He says, because if I'm poisonous, I'm like a cobra. And he says, all right, and your last name? He says, whatever your last name is. And Redestro tells him, well, since you're about to be my son, I might as well just tell you my full name. My actual name is, and I apologize if I butcher this, Rikia Yotsubashi. And Deku says, then I'll be Cobra Yotsubashi. And he says, I have no objections with that name. So, the, people from the adoption agency, they get there, they evaluate the home, they deem it suitable, and they deem, Rikia a suitable father. They hand him the paperwork, he signs it all, and, they hand him the money. Well, he hands them the money. And so the process, it takes about a few weeks, and Deku is allowed to stay there during the duration of those weeks. So the adoption is, put through and it is approved. And so Deku has his name legally changed from Izuku Midoriya to Cobra Yotsubashi. And, Redestro, he's actually very happy to hear that. And so Deku, he has a private tutor for all his middle school. He does not go through school with Bakugo. And so he goes through intense training for combat because being Redestro's son now, Deku is introduced to the Meta Liberation Army. And he's actually a full-fledged member. He is, gaining power quickly, and he's sparring with most of their members until Deku eventually overcomes them, and he has to fight with Redestro every day. So all throughout his middle school, he's gaining knowledge like a madman. His analytic skills are still top grade. So Deku's actually a lot smarter in this timeline than what he was in canon. And a lot stronger too. He's, got full control over all of his Dragon Slayer abilities, including some secret Dragon Slayer secret arts. So he's actually pretty confident in his powers, and he has a confident, almost cocky personality now. But he still has that kind of dull eyes and a smirk smile. And it comes up time for him to choose a high school, or if he wants to continue being privately funded. And Deku says, how about I go to UA? And Redestro's like, what do you mean? Would you want to go to a school for heroes? We're a liberation army. And Deku says, well, you could put me there undercover for the army. And he says, oh, you want to go undercover for me? And Deku tells him, of course, father. That way, I could try to get new recruits, and I could keep you up to date about what the heroes are doing, what they're teaching, and how they're doing it. And, Redestro says, very well. Shall I submit you for recommendation? And he says, no need to do that. I'll go through the entrance exam. And he says, by all means, my son. By all means, have your fun. And he says, oh, but, do show your powers off. Make sure they know the son of Rikiya Yotsubashi is not to be messed with, and that the Yotsubashi name is one of still high regard and pedigree. But if anyone asks, tell them you just have a poison quirk. It would be too much of a hassle to explain to them, and since that is what's written officially on your paperwork, it's what you should go with. Deku tells him, very well. Do I have any restrictions? He says, no. You're free to do what you want. I trust you, and by now it's been 5 years after all. You're 15. If you were going to do anything that would displease me, I would have already have let you known. But no, going undercover is going to require a lot of patience, my son. Don't expect anything to happen right off the bat. And he tells him, of course not. So, Deku, he graduates from middle school with his private, teachers, and he submits his application to UA and heads to the entrance exam. For the 10 months that he's training, he's actually, sparring with Redestro and hitting the gym, but he's not too built up, like, still. Like I said, the Deku in the thumbnail is how he's gonna look. But, he does have more confidence in himself, and he's not really one to be messed with. Because he has a more sadistic side to him now. Because every day he looks in the mirror after a shower, he still sees that dragon's brand put in him. And his snake is actually pretty big now. It's about as big as Cobra's snake. And it does have its wings so Deku can, ride around on his flying snake. And it still breathes out poison to give him, a meal. But he won't be able to use the snake for the entrance exam. So Deku, he's actually pretty confident in his abilities. He heads to the entrance exam, because after all, he's on equal terms with Redestro in pure strength. If he adds in his poison, he's easily superior. And keep in mind, like, Dragon Slayers have insane physical strength. Like, just look at, like, Cobra's accomplishments with his from Fairy Tail. I mean, able to knock down a dragon with a single poison punch. So Deku's strength is, like, on a whole new tier. So he gets there, and he's waiting to go inside. He's not really doing much. He's just listening to music because being around this many people is kind of like an ear sore for him, since he can hear everyone's thoughts. It's kind of annoying. And he notices he's hearing someone's voice that kind of sounds familiar, but at the same time it's like kind of annoying to him. So he's not really too happy to hear that. And plus, it's really loud. And he hates loud noises. So he goes over there and he hears another loud voice arguing with him. And he's just like, my gosh, what is with all these loud mouths? And he just, raises his voice and says, hey, cut it out. You guys are way too loud. And, it's Ida and Bakugo arguing, and Ida, he looks over there and he's just like, oh, I'm sorry, but Bakugo, he's like, and who the hell are you to talk? You're just as loud. And he says, I only got loud because you guys are so loud I can hear you over my music, pointing to his headphones in his ears. And Ida asks him what his name is. He says, my name is Cobra Yotsubashi. And Ito recognizes that last name. He's like, wait a minute, he says, yep, the billionaire's son. And Ida's eyes grow wide, and everybody hears that because, the Yotsubashi name is known, like, very well. And Bakugo hears that, and he's like, so what, you're some billionaire's, son. It's not like you're gonna get in here off money alone. And Deku says, yeah, I wasn't really counting on it. I'm stronger than you by a long shot. And Baku's like, what did you say? And Deku's like, explosions, right? That's your quirk. And, Baku's like, ha. And he's like, I can hear your thoughts. And Bakugo, Ida, everyone's looking around him like, wait, you can hear our thoughts? And he says, yeah, kind of surprising, isn't it? But that's not my actual quirk. It's just a side effect of it. And, Bakugo demands to know what his quirk is. Deku just tells him, it's poison. And everyone gets so freaking terrified of him because he says that with a smile on his face. And he's looking dead at Bakugo. He says, so keep on. See what happens. And he just bumps into Bakugo real hard and walks right past him. Bakugo's pissed. Like, he's just like, what the hell does he think he is? And Ida's like, I wouldn't mess with him. He says he has a poison quirk. You wouldn't stand a chance. Especially since you don't know any of its capabilities. And he can hear your thoughts, so it's not like any attack you made would actually hit him, right? And Bakugo says, he can only hear our thoughts. He can't really react to our movements if we're faster than him. And Ida, he thinks about that. He's like, yeah, that's probably true. And Deku, he hears that, but he's going to let that slide for now. So he gets there, and he's actually, kind of focused. He passes the exam easy, 100. And, he sees this girl up there towards the, physical exam, like the robots, and he can hear her just freaking out. And it's actually kind of annoying to him. So he walks up there to her and he says, hey, what are you freaking out about? And she sees Deku, no smile on his face, dead looking eyes, red hair, and she's just like, um, who are you? And Deku says, well, who I am isn't important. Why are you freaking out so much? And she's like, I don't think I did too well in the exam. Deku says, what, that's all you're worried about? Try focusing on the task at hand. And, she's just like, okay. And he says, if you're worried about your exam results, that's just going to throw you off. May even get you hurt. So, she's just like, oh, that's what you meant. Thank you. Deku says, yeah. Anyways, so the gate opens and Deku's just walking in. Everyone's running past him. He's not too worried about it. He sees robots and Deku, he's just on them. He sends out, his poison attacks from his distance and, Dragon Slayer, Poison Dragon Slicer. And he destroys about 60 robots at once. And everyone's just like, what? And Baku's like, wait a minute. He did that with poison alone? And Deku's just like, alright, now that they know my poison can be long range, I'm going to show them some physical strength. So Deku goes through and he's just punching straight through the robots, destroying them. And people notice he's not even using his quirk. And Nezu, he's watching Deku go, and he's just like, my, that one shows promise. And it was like, yeah, he's not even that muscular, but he's so strong. And, they're just like, yeah, that's insane. And Deku, he's destroyed about, I don't know, 400 robots by now. And Nezu says, send out the zero pointer. And, the zero pointer, it starts marching. Deku can hear it. And he's just like, oh, they're sending out the big gun, huh? So he's ready for it. And he sees Uraraka trapped underneath the rubble and he can hear her. He's like, oh, hell. So he goes over there. He throws the rubble off her. And he says, all right, get moving if you can walk. And she's like, why are you doing this? You didn't have to save me. And, Deku's like, You're being so damn loud, it's kind of hard to ignore you. And, Uraraka's just like, I'm sorry. And he's like, why are you just sitting around here? I told you to get going, or can you walk? And she says, I'm kind of in a lot of pain. He says, yeah, I can hear that, but you can walk. So get out of my way, sideliner. And she takes that to heart, like being called a sideliner, a nuisance in his way. She's like lost all confidence in herself. And Deku, he's very blunt. Like, he does not give a fuck. And, Zero Pointer's right there. He's like, as for you, you sound worse than she does. As he looks up there, he gives a dragon, a poison dragon roar and completely obliterates the robot. Like, people, like, he did that with a single breath. And Bakugo is shocked. He's just like, how strong is this guy? Ida, he's just like, I told you don't make him mad. He's definitely gotten into UA. And everyone is just so surprised. And, Deku's just walks off. He's just like, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. And he exits there, and Uraraka, she says, thank you for saving me. And Deku says, I didn't ask for your thanks. Like I said, you were in my way. And, people realize he's not nice at all. And Deku can hear them, talking about him, and he says, I can hear you. And everybody just shuts their mouth. And Deku can hear their thoughts. He's like, I can still hear you. And everyone's just freaking out even more. Deku chuckles and walks off. As soon as he gets down there to the road, a limousine's waiting. Redestro's inside, and he says, come on, my boy, sit. Deku gets in, the door shuts, and they drive off. And Bakugo and Ida saw that, and they're just like, man, does he got style. And, Redestro, he's asking Deku how to go. Deku says, I showed off, just like you wanted me to. He says, does it seem like there would be anybody really willing to turn over to the army? And Deku says, well, if I'm just basing it off who I saw, I'm pretty sure 90% of those losers wouldn't even get in. I'm going to have to wait a little bit more to form a judgment on that. And Redestro says, of course, of course. And he's just smiling. He says, so, how bad did you show off? And he says, I took out a 0-pointer with one of my poison dragon roars. And he says, wow, you're that strong now. Taking out a huge 0-pointer. And Deku looks at me and says, please, we both know you're at least 100 times stronger than that 0-pointer. And, Redestro says, of course, of course. Of course, you're even stronger than me. So it's no surprise there. And Deku says, yeah, however, I still hold great respect for you. You took me in when I had nothing. You saw promise in me. I won't forget that. And, Redestro tells him, well, you never did tell me what it was like for you growing up. I'd like to know if you're open to telling me. And Deku says, of course, Dad. I'll tell you. And he says, well, when I was young before the quirk doctor, life was good. I was praised by my teachers for being very analytical, for being able to get things easily. And, well, that all changed after the quirk doctor. He told me I'd be utterly useless without a quirk, and to be honest, I can't imagine my life without this power now. And, Redestro's like, of course not. It's freeing, empowering, isn't it? And Deku says, of course, I believe in our cause with all my heart. And Redestro says, that's good. continue your story. And Deku tells him, it was amazing for me to be able to really have you here. And Redestro says to the story, Deku says, of course, of course. He says, but after that, I met a man named Agent Arasaka. And he says, oh, what happened? He says he bought me from my parents, had them sign their rights away. And then he took me to this facility called Heaven's Research Lab. They found this relic called a lacrima. They had it implanted inside of me. And it wouldn't take for the first 3 years. They'd beat me. They would, call me a slave, useless, their property, not even a human. And Redestro is notably getting irritated hearing that. And he says, my only friend was a snake that a nice lady who was there within my first year got reassigned for being too friendly to me. And he says, oh, what was that lady's name? I would like to know. And he says, that lady's name, her name was Lisa Amane. And, he's like, I don't know where she's at now, but she was always nice to me. She's the one that gave me that pet snake that I have. And, Redestro says, yes, that snake seems to miss you when you're gone. And Deku says, well, we've been together ever since we were kids. I practically raised that snake, and he's always kept me safe. And Redestro says, and the snake's a lot more powerful. And Deku says, yeah, I'm about to get to why. And he's like, okay, continue. He says it was the 4th year. Agent Arasaka had enough of seeing no results. So he dragged me and my snake out there. He threw my snake on the table, told the doctors to experiment all they wanted on it. They started injecting that snake with chemicals. I don't know with what, but it was similar to what they put inside of me. The snake, it started screaming in pain almost. I could hear it. I could hear its thoughts. Screaming, saying, help me. Looking right at me. I was chained to a table. They took out this branding iron. It was the shape of a dragon. As Deku opens up his shirt to reveal the dragon symbol that had been branded on him. And Redestro sees that and he knows where this story is going. After they branded that with me, seeing my snake, Arasaka telling them to just kill it. I lost it. I let out this roar of anger and poison came out. It infected everyone around me, everyone that was holding me. My arms changed into something dragon-like. I had scales and sharp nails. It allowed me to have a burst of strength. And when I was in that form, poison just seeped out of my body. I broke through my restraints on the table. I grabbed the doctors. The poison seeped into their heads, killing them instantly. My snake is immune to my poison, and I'm guessing it's from those chemicals. Redestro is hearing all this, and he's like, what happened to Arasaka? And Deku tells him, before I left, after I'd gotten fully dressed, I came back. He was the only one still clinging to life. The others, they were starting to decompose already from the poison. So, I grabbed him, and I gave him another poison dragon's roar. Right in his face, point blank range. His head melted. And I left. And Redestro, after hearing that, he can see the anger in Deku's eyes, the tears filling them. He hugs his son and tells him, it's all right now. You're strong. No one will ever hurt you like that again. you'll never be a slave again, my boy. And, Deku's just like, thank you. That means so much to me. He says, I will do everything to keep the army's goals alive. I promise. And Redestro tells him, of course, I know you will, my son. And they head on home. And that's actually where I'm going to leave it off for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this first episode, rather on the long side, but hey. Anyways, look forward to later on today when I release, the first part of Sabretooth. And if you guys enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you guys liked, commented, subscribed, clicked the link to join the Discord. I am the Crown Clown, and I will see all you amazing and beautiful people again in the next episode. See you later.